The most dangerous truth about the ruling class is that they have stopped imagining a future that includes the rest of us. For centuries, even the most brutal empires cloaked their rule in the pretense of permanence. Rome called itself eternal. Britain promised civilization. America claimed destiny. But the new oligarchy, the Endarkenment, no longer bothers with universal myths. Their plan is not to guide humanity or even exploit humanity, but to abandon humanity. Extinction, not stewardship, has become the unspoken strategy. You can see it in the pauses when Peter Thiel is asked if he believes in the survival of humankind. You can see it in Elon Musk's shifting story about Mars, sold one day as an adventure and the next as a lifeboat. You can see it in Sam Altman stockpiling land in Big Sur, and in half of Silicon Valley quietly buying apocalypse insurance in New Zealand. This is not normal behavior for people who believe civilization has a collective future. This is the behavior of a class that has concluded, privately but decisively, that humanity is expendable, and that their only obligation is to themselves. This is why their investments bend toward enclosure rather than emancipation. Prospera in Honduras is marketed as innovation, but functionally it is a testbed for privatized sovereignty. The Freedom City concept that Trump now parrots is nothing more than the charter colony reborn. Carve out pockets of exemption where corporations hold the ballot box, not the citizens. These are not cities designed for human flourishing. They are cages for surplus populations, experiments in keeping labor cheap and rights conditional while the architects perfect their lifeboats. The lifeboats themselves are already being drafted. Seasteads, O'Neill cylinders, orbital habitats, Martian colonies. These are not science fiction fantasies to them. They are business plans. The last window of cheap energy and public tolerance is being used to bankroll technologies of selective survival. Biotech for lifespan extension, AI for automated policing, robotics for the end of labor dependency. All of these tools could be tools of shared abundance, but in the hands of this class, they are instruments of filtration. Their goal is to reduce the human question from how do 8 billion flourish to how do 1,000 escape. This is where the rhetoric of apocalypse cults and the strategy of capital have merged. For decades, right-wing media primed millions to believe that FEMA camps and martial law were coming from the left. It was projection. The purpose of that paranoia was to soften the ground for the real camps, the real troops, the real databases. Likewise, the panic about overpopulation and collapse was never meant to be solved. It was meant to habituate us to extinction as acceptable, even inevitable, so long as a few elites could step off the sinking ships into their waiting lifeboats. From an Enlightenment perspective, this is the greatest betrayal imaginable. The Enlightenment was not about guaranteeing paradise. It was about guaranteeing posterity. The idea that humanity as a whole could take responsibility for its own fate, govern itself rationally, and extend liberty beyond the accidents of birth was the first real break from millennia of aristocratic fatalism. The Endarkenment is a regression into fatalism dressed in silicon. They have abandoned the Enlightenment project because it no longer serves their insulation. Their wager is simple. Better to preside over extinction with an escape hatch than risk equality with the many. Notice how extinction here is not just tolerated, it is engineered. Climate change is not an accident of neglect. It is a profitable market for disaster capitalism. The erosion of public health, housing, and education is not incompetence. It is attrition. Every public failure is an opportunity to funnel more into private solutions, from charter cities to concierge medicines to survival bunkers. The more the public sphere collapses, the easier it is to argue that only those who can pay deserve to survive. The very extinction of the commons becomes the revenue model. And while they prepare their exits, they are not idle about control. Palantir integrates surveillance across borders. Anduril builds autonomous war machines. Google and Amazon refine the cloud infrastructures that can render dissent legible and disposable in real time. These are not neutral technologies. They are the ligaments of a system designed to keep humanity manageable, while the gates to the lifeboats are welded shut behind the few. In the language of systems, the purpose is clear. Extinction for the many, insulation of the few. The Enlightenment socialist response is not to mirror their fear, but to restore the abandoned promise. The only filter worth passing is one humanity crosses together. The technologies they hoard must be reclaimed as universal inheritance. Housing as a right. Automation as liberation of time. Biotech as an extension of dignity, not as a private passport out of history. The Enlightenment was interrupted by capitalism, diverted into the enrichment of a class that now prepares to sever itself from its species. Completing that revolution means refusing the very premise that survival can be privatized. History will not forgive a generation that let its wealthiest build lifeboats while the rest drowned. The quiet part is already said out loud. That democracy is incompatible with their freedom. Competition is for losers. Humanity's survival is uncertain and unimportant. Our task is to make their escape plan irrelevant. Not with slogans, not with nostalgia, but with structures of abundance that leave no one expendable. Extinction as strategy only works if we accept the frame. If we reject it, if we make survival collective, liberty infrastructural, and dignity non-negotiable, then the Endarkenment fails the very test it's set for us. The truth is simple. Either the future belongs to all of us, or it belongs to no one at all.